Hey everybody, this is Mickey G. Well, today Rodney and I talk about a lot of different stuff. So we hope you enjoyed this edition of Old Fools Talking Old School. I think sometimes, especially the younger generation, think they've got to make their mark somehow, and they seem like they want to do it by being outlandish. I mean,
Yeah.
I look at Stephen A. Smith. To me, he hasn't, to me, gone over the board with looks or dress or things of that nature. It just sometimes, I always got the impression he came in that I'm going to be loud, and I'm just going to be loud. And even though what I'm saying really loud don't make no sense or is not on point, I'm just going to be loud, kind of thing. But, he's being pretty conservative. But then I compare him to somebody like that damn Cam Newton, and I'm like, what world did he come from? It looked like he went down to damn Goodwill and said, okay, let me see what they got on sale today. Okay, there's this green hat with a straw sticking out of it. I'm like, come on, what? And I know early on everybody was saying he was like a fashion guy, and don't have a problem with fashion. That's not a problem.
Well, I don't want none of that
when
fashion.
when you just go totally overboard in the fashion, I don't like that. To me, that once again, it takes away from the message. And I still say he didn't have enough credibility during his career to be considered this overall guru on football. I mean, if he had won 2 or 3 Super Bowls, I'll put it this way, if he had duplicated what Tom Brady had done, I would say, Cam, you can wear whatever you want to. But he ain't got nowhere near that level, and level a lot more. And he come on there with some of that stuff he have on. I'm like, oh my God, where'd he get that from?
Well, to me, it's just an elevation of back in the day. I remember when black folks always hollering about, y'all don't want him to express himself. Well, express yourself at home, goddammit. When you out here, we have a standard, and this is the standard. Using all that excuse about he's expressing himself. Hey, read on level of your grade. That'll express yourself. Black folks have always used a quasi excuse for whatever behavior if it goes against the norm. I believe in expressing yourself and being yourself, but you can do that within the parameters of what you're dealing with. It's on the same token that if a kid is a good artist and he wants to draw shapely looking women, okay, that's in the parameters. But if he want to draw shapely women who are naked, that ain't expressing yourself. Well, it is expressing yourself, but not in this area, So, but he's just being himself. Oh no. He's gonna have to rein himself in, and that's what always gets me, and that's what I think about Cam Newton. He's either trying to get a stick, and it wore itself out real quick because he ain't on nothing but a podcast now.
Right.
And it was a gimmick for them to laugh at him for a while. And he said some outlandish stuff too.
Yeah.
But it's all in them trying to make a niche for themselves. Stephen A. Smith, I always look at him and think he tried to claim the old Howard Cosell persona, all loud and boisterous and all that kind of crap. And Cosell did it, but he had he was a prop for Muhammad Ali. That's what got him over.
Yeah.
And Stephen A. Smith think he can come on there and talk all that noise, just like who's that? That was Stack. What's Stack name? He on the podcast too. Smith that went up in the stands with Ron Artest when they in Detroit, and he told Stephen A. Smith, just keep on doing what you're doing. Keep on analyzing a sport that you ain't never played.
Yeah, that's right.
I was like, boy, that hit him right upside the head there.
Yeah, I heard that comment about he was talking about his playing days. They went back and found out that I guess he did play on, was it North Carolina A&T or some
Yeah,
some
some,
school.
yeah,
He
it
was
was,
actually on the team, but I think he averaged like a minute maybe during
yeah,
his whole career, or maybe a
yeah.
point kind of thing. It wasn't like he was a dominating force. 'Cause obviously, if he was, he wouldn't be in the studio. He'd been on the court,
Right,
kind of
right.
thing.
He was passing them towels down.
Right. So yeah, I think that makes a big difference too. Is where your level of expertise is coming from.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
got a lot of people who are claim to be experts, but like you say, they never played the game. Which I'm not saying you have to play the game to know the game. I mean, know the history and things of that nature. Yeah, you ain't got to play to do that. But to me, it just adds to your credibility if you can say, yeah, because I've been there and done that.
Right. Well, I mean, especially when you're criticizing the people who are there doing it.
Doing it. Yeah.
You know, who are you to say anything? It's like assholes. Everybody got one.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
your opinion. And it reminds me of Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant was talking. Oh, Kendrick Perkins was talking, acting like he was the savior on the Thunder's team here when he was here. That all the players. He said Kevin Durant said this is coming from a man. He was blasting Kevin for something. I forget what it was. He said this coming from a man that averaged 2 points a game and 1 rebound. What is he gonna tell me? You know, that's when you gotta know your role. You know,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
now all of a sudden Perkins is like the analyst of the year. I'm like this dummy. You know, coming up with them old homegrown. This is like a pig in a barrel. Be saying all the time on there, man. I'm like, that's who they like on there, boy. Them people that they can laugh at.
Yeah,
But
and a lot of those people don't know that's what it is. They're laughing at them, not
yeah,
laughing with them.
and
Uh,
Barkley is the main one.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's funny how you look through those things, but like you say, it's sort of interesting when you look at some of the political talk shows, the way they've got black women leading
Hmm.
those shows and things.
Hmm.
And I hope it stays that way because we need more of that. And like you say, they're very easy to look at too. So
Yeah,
that makes it even better. But yeah, you never know. I know I went and voted today. I wasn't going to go. I wasn't going to vote because I don't know. None of the people are running here in Tennessee. I don't want to vote for anyway. But I said,
hmm,
I always advocate vote,
yeah,
regardless of the situation. Vote. So that's what I told the girls, growing up, and they all voted. Mary went and voted. I said, yeah, get your ass up and go vote. So I went out
hmm,
there today to vote. Man, I got that ballot, and I'm looking at names on the ballot because you have to declare your party here.
hmm,
So I said, Democrat. So they gave me the Democrat and then independent. And then, of course, they gave me the general election ballot. And I'm looking down there. I ain't doing. There was this one little sister's running for county commission that came through the neighborhood that her name was on there. This other lady who's from an established family, her dad was a city councilman for years, and she took over when she passed, and her name was on. But everybody else, I didn't have a clue. So I just started basically just playing a game. I said, okay, on the general election, as a Republican, I ain't voting for them. As an independent, okay, I'll vote for the independent. Don't know who they are, but I'm going to vote for the
yeah,
independent.
exactly. Hope for
And
the
then I
best.
realized that you didn't have to vote for anybody. I thought you had to vote for at least one. Found
Right.
out you had to vote for anybody. But I just started basically playing a game. I said,
Yeah,
I don't know any of these damn people.
that's
So I
it.
just went on down, and there was a couple of times that there were some judges. Do you vote to retain them or to remove them? I said, okay, if you remove them, there ain't nobody else to vote for. So I looked at the name, and I'm like, yeah, I don't like that name. Let's remove that one. I mean, you shouldn't have to. That shouldn't be your decision on whether or not you're going to vote for somebody or make a decision just because you happen to look at a name and say, I don't like that kind of name. But that's how bad it was for me today.
Oh, yeah, I understand, bro. But I can tell you from firsthand experience on them judges, on whether to retain them or not. If you notice, they try to be as low profile as they possibly can. They don't want to be in the news, and um, unless there's some specific case. But I know, like for the Supreme Court, when I worked there, man, I just started laughing when I finally realized what was happening. Every year, they all got voted to retain, and the nays were like 20%. The rest of it was 80%. Well, whenever they came up. It was the same thing, and they all had the same thing: 80% for, 20% against. And then I would see, well, hell, I saw them all the time, and I'm sitting there like, what, how is this? And then the other judges, when they're trying to get in the door, man, they stay so low profile. They don't want you to know anything about them. And they hate it when there's some case and it draws their name out in public. It's something controversial and it has to go up on appeal. I remember this one judge when that damn pharmacist with his mentally ill ass killed that little 16-year-old boy that broke into his pharmacy. And the boy was wrong, and he shot him and killed him. Well, his buddies ran off, so he went out there trying to get them too, but then came back in. I don't know if the boy was dead or whatnot, but he reloaded and shot him again
Man.
while he was down on the floor. We had I was in a symposium, and they brought that up. We were talking about, I forget what the symposium was about. And, but anyway, it was black against white on the terminology of it. They were saying, yeah, he deserved it, blah, blah, blah. Like, hell no, he didn't deserve that. That was an execution. He had already shot the boy down. He wasn't no threat. So whether he was dead or alive, it didn't require him to reload and shoot him again. And it's just like this one boy at my job. I supposedly head detective. I cussed his ass out. He was talking about, well, why isn't Al Sharpton down here defending him? Talking about this pharmacist. I said, because you got a damn crooked ass lawmaker up there in your Senate who's defending him. They don't need Al Sharpton. I said, by the way, Al Sharpton is not Superman flying around looking for crime and swooping down and doing the good deed for the day. Y'all ain't never need Al Sharpton or Jessie Jackson. You just sit there and look stupid. I'm like, well, give me a break. How you gonna sit here and say why he didn't come down and help this dude? First off, those dudes come where people ask him to come, where they see an injustice. It ain't like they just show up to feed that narrative that a lot of white people have is like, oh, they're race baiters. There ain't no race baiter. And unfortunately, well, I guess that's changing. We got more representation in the law field where people know whatever. But back in the day when civil rights thing was going on, we only had a few people that knew the law extensively to know. And when they come to town, all the crookeds kind of sit down. So it's just a matter of how they interpret stuff.
Yeah, yeah. And I guess that's the same situation that's going on with that, the young brother that died.
Mm-hmm.
Nolan, what's his name?
Wells.
Well, yeah, I can't think of his last name. You got Ben Crump there, and you got Al Sharpton there, and I always try to weigh the balance, I guess, of how much are they benefiting the family? Because until yesterday, they didn't know y'all from Adam. It's because of the circumstances that came about that they're even there. And I know there's people out there who are looking at it almost like you talking about that guy you work with, that, oh, here they go again. Anything, something happen, here they show up. Ben Crumb and Al Sharpton talk about, there's bad stuff going on. We're going to get our own independent autopsy and those kind of things. It seems like those kind of situation always has sort of a good thing, bad thing kind of thing. Because I think it also brings a lot more scrutiny to the family. Because I know that some stuff came out about his mom, and her work and her job and things of that nature.
Well, that's the first thing they do is attack the victim and his families.
Yeah, that kind of stuff all comes out, and all. I don't know. I just I think it's just like anything else. There's always that thin line about, are they there really? You hope they're there to help make sure justice is served, because we know it's a corrupt system in a lot of ways.
Well, that's
not just there for a PR opportunity kind of thing.
But for a PR opportunity, what is the PR for? It ain't if it ain't to help the family. the vast majority of the time, well, I ain't gonna say, I'm gonna say damn near all the time. If they didn't show up, there would be no publicity to it. People wouldn't even know about it. There's a boy down in Texas down there. Another situation where a young black boy went out with his white friends, ended up dead because I was getting them confused. I read that one about him. They found him in Lake Ray Hubbard down there on the Texas in Dallas area.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, well, no, this happened down there. They said, no, this happened in Mississippi. And I'm like, no, this was down there. And come to find out, it was both of them. But they didn't call Sharpton and them in. And you ain't heard about the Wells family. I guess I'm assuming they called because, like I said, they don't just show up out of the blue. But now there's attention brought to it. It can't be swept under the rug.
Yeah.
The local sheriff and his boys can't just dispose of everything and take care of it. That's why they're there. They're not there uh, to get attention for themselves. They're there to try to get justice. And it's been a long history of that from way back when. It's because they're effective is why these white boys are running around here saying that they're like ambulance chasers and all that. Well, if you stop running over folks, damn ambulance, they wouldn't have to be running around there.
Yeah, I agree. I just, I always go back to, though, that situation with Sharpton and Tawana Brawley back in the 90s. They sort of grand staged that event, and the police was doing this and all this kind of stuff. Come to find out, she staged all of that. I think you just have to be careful sometimes on when you go on that big stage. You bring out all the people who just want to find something, kind of thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't seen any really negative things with Ben Crump since I've seen him go up and work with families and all. I just, like I say, sometimes I think, I just hope that they ain't grandstanding things, just to be out in the public view, which I think at this point, neither one of them needs that. Everybody knows who they are. But yeah, I think sometimes it makes for
that's
debate,
the seed.
I guess
That's the seed of doubt that they like to portray there. I would venture to say I would bet money that Tawana Brawley did happen to him, because they got all the mechanisms to cover it up, and especially when it's police, and then let's just say, for instance, that she did do all of that and stage it. A young girl, I don't think she's that smart. But anyway, let's say she did do it. Okay, that's one case out of the many, many, many that they've resolved or helped resolve or brought some form of justice to the family. One case that they can say that. And who's to say, as many times, no other representatives get that label for all the times these little white girls and ran around there and cried rape when they were giving that stuff up, and nothing was done.
Yeah. Well, like I say, I know there are those kind of situations too. But I also know there's situations where they, especially with him, he's jumped on bandwagons only to find out that the bandwagon wasn't there, kind of thing. And I don't know. I guess there's part of me that says you have to be a little bit careful, just like these sports reporters and people of that nature. I think you just have to be mindful of that sort of public opinion, if you will, especially if things start to go south. Because, you get people that fodder to jump on, and they're going to take it as far as they can. I mean, I just want to know, at least as much of a reasonable doubt as possible of what happened. I mean, I just would like to know what happened. There's just too many questions you just makes you want to know, well, what really happened? Because everybody was saying this kid was such a good kid. And, they first came out with all that talk about him. He was arguing with somebody. Well, that white kid came out after with the recording and said, no, that was me. That wasn't even him, So, I mean, I just think you have to be careful on jumping on things at the very beginning without having a lot of information. And then you have to backtrack, later on. But my biggest thing is I just hope they can come to a very logical conclusion of what happened. I think the family needs that. They deserve that.
Well, of course they do. But as I say, with if the shoe was on the other foot and there was 4 black kids and 1 white kid there, they all ass would be in a holding cell right now until somebody comes out with something. You know, these folks got time to go and erase their phones and messages and all this other kind of. It lends to the old days when your suspicions are what they are, but they can't prove it. And I want to say in one of these cases, one of the kids' grandfather's a judge or something that I thought I
That's
heard.
that case. Nolan Wells, his mom, I think it's his. I thought it was his mother was a judge.
Oh, it might be.
That's this case. Yeah.
Yeah.
She's a
So
judge. Yeah.
there's a whole lot of speculation going on. Should be about that situation, as opposed to the Wells thing. It's almost like we've seen this movie before. How many more times I gotta watch Mississippi Burning or one of them to know that it still goes on?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It
You
definitely
know,
does.
yeah,
And it's going to go on. I mean, it's going to go on as long as you have people of color and people of non-color, and you're going to do that. Especially when a lot of those people of non-color are in those positions of law enforcement or government or things of that nature. Yeah, it's going to go on. It's going to
yeah.
continue to go on.
I'm beyond the benefit of the doubt now. I'm these folks are questioning Sharpton and all of them other guys and all that kind of thing, but you don't question over here, where the deed is done, you know, uh, all in the name of justice. That's all people are wanting is justice, Well, some people, but yeah, I was talking to my son the other day, and he was like, Dad, because I always told him, I said, no, you don't get yourself in that situation. Because for a while there, all his friends, there wasn't too many black ones in there. I said, don't you have some black friends? You know, you going down here and going there. I could have wrung his neck when his mama knew it, but he was going down to this lake. They were going down there swimming. I ain't know nothing about it, because I'd have went down there and fished his ass up out of there. I find it out 20 years later. Oh yeah, they used to go down the Deep Fork and tubing, and I'm like, what? I was like, boy, you lucky you made it to 35. But yeah, man, some folks have an idea of fun and it can cost you your life.
Well, yeah. That and when things like that happen, even with the situation, at least the information we know so far, you would think, well, common sense would tell you why would you need to do those kind of things if there's nothing to hide?
Right.
Why would you erase the phones and all that kind of stuff if there's nothing to hide? So yeah, even with that, it makes you wonder, because common sense just doesn't prevail there unless there was something that you were trying to hide.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a interesting situation, I guess.
Yes,
Is the
sir.
best way to
And
put it.
after you call in whatever their version of Mayday was, and you say the boat's taking on water, but you don't want the Coast Guard to come help you. What's up with that?
And saying that he wanted to stay back by himself. Why would he want to do that? Why would he want to stay back by himself when all y'all are leaving and going back and getting saved? So I don't like say that. I just hope that the truth comes out to a point to where you can say, well, that's what happened. You can speculate all you want to, but that's what happened. Because and especially when it's a young kid like that, somebody that their life was only beginning, and at least what I'm hearing, was a good kid. He was a
Yeah.
good kid, you know.
Well, and of course too, I mean, I've just seen when people when they're jealous of you, okay, and want what you got, I mean, they'll pretend to be your friend, but they really got your detriment in their mind. This boy was, from all evidence of what little bit that they've given out is, he was an athlete and probably was well liked and probably got with one of his girlfriend or something, or somebody he liked. I mean, that's just speculation. I don't know nothing about that, but people will do some weird stuff in the name of just animosity. So the thing of it is, well, I'm just rambling now because even with all they all friends, but evidently they were closer friends than he was with them as friends. To Even if y'all were close friends, why would you leave your boy like that?
Yeah, yeah,
If y'all were looking out for one another, you know, there's just too much. I don't have the benefit of the doubt and all that. I think it's all sinister until they can come out and prove their innocence.
yeah, yeah. I think definitely something happened. It's just a matter of what happened, and I got to admit, I was one of the first people that said, "Why ain't he got the same last name as his daddy?" You know,
Hmm.
that was making the rounds at one time.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Everybody's wanting to know, well, uh, why ain't he got the same last name as his dad? So
Hmm.
yeah, but that's how we are. That's how we are.
Yeah, and who are the most deadbeat dads in this country? But they put the stereotype on us.
Oh yeah, well, that's the way it is. A lot of things, just like the old saying, "Oh, who's on food stamp? All them black folks on food stamp." There's 10 times more white people on food stamps than there are black folks.
Yeah.
But that's always been the stereotype that you got a
Hmm.
lot more white folks on food stamps than you'll probably ever have black folks on food stamps.
Hmm. Yeah. It's see this whole white supremacy machine has put a bunch of things in, and especially minorities' heads, like they want to make themselves be so superior and all that. You never thought. I mean, well, I won't say you, but I never thought growing up. I thought all white husbands and wives, those were their kids, or they had been. Come to find out, they've been married 2, 3 times, and if you really checked into it, didn't have the same name as their stepfathers. You know, but it's never presented that way. It's always the Brady Bunch. They don't have we are the ones that have the the in-home problems, and there's a single mama in there. There's plenty of white single mamas out there,
A lot of, a lot of.
and but they don't get the same stereotype as the black ones do, and so coming from my little hometown, that's the way they had it set up when I got out here and realized it's something I knew, but then I got a chance to see it. I was like, oh man, you know, having had this white dude beating his wife's ass and doing all this other kind of stuff, and getting what was that? It was something on the other day about had a drug problem, but they get a chance to go and work and get a legitimate job and get that second chance and make it appear that they had never had any kind of strife at all. We can't even get a job because the first thing they ask you, you ever been to jail? Well, you can forget it. You don't get that second choice. So I say all that to say, I mean, it is everything that we know already, but
Well,
sometimes
when you can control the narrative, you can do that kind of stuff.
that's for sure.
Back in the day of early TV and stuff, who was running all the major studios? They're
Yeah.
white people.
They
So,
still are.
yeah, well, yeah, that's true too. So they were presenting shows that showed white people in the most favorable situation you can do, even back to the days of the westerns.
Yeah.
The Native Americans were always the bad guys.
Yep.
They didn't even get anywhere close to being that till the Lone Ranger came along and Tonto was his sidekick, whatever. They always was in the best light.
And even that was a lie, because the Lone Ranger was a black man.
Yeah, it's long been said, if you control the narrative, you can just about say anything you want to say. That old saying of trust but verify holds true, even though today we can't really trust a lot. Well, we hope you enjoyed this edition. Join us next time for Old Fools Talking Old School. Until then, this is Mickey G. Peace.